Wherever I am,
there were so many conflicts and anyway, but these rodeos in
I remember Ronnie coming to the rodeos. And I have to say, I was probably a little bit jealous of her.
I showed Ronnie Tessler's work once when I owned a place called the Coburg Gallery at 314 West Cordova Street.
I have to say that I was pretty young for most of this, but I do remember, going to rodeos and my parents taking stock.
Yeah, I don't know, we just kind of hit it off and became friends. We're still friends 30-some years later. It's crazy.
Current book project is on the history of the Gay Rodeo Association. It's titled...
I know in southern Alberta here, you have all these big ranches down south, which is all on Blackfoot territory. It's all our land.
We got into the archive and we were getting to pick our project for the year.
I photographed these images that you are looking at between the years 1976 and 1979 with aspirations to develop myself personally, and my choice was photography.
The thing that, of course, is in a way the most interesting thing is what the artist or the photographer's intentions were, what actually drew them to it, because then you're perhaps a little bit closer to matching the truth of what's going on in the photograph with what the photographer saw. Then you could have 100 different art historians or critics or curators come along and look at the same photograph, and you have 100 different stories. And of course, multiple stories might be plausibly true. One just doesn't know.
Because it's a solitary sport, it's up to the performer or the rodeo cowboy to bring his own gear and to prepare himself both physically and mentally.
Bob won Pendleton at the Canadian finals. He was a funny built little guy for a bronc rider. He was a little heavier, but man, he could ride. Oh my God.
Yeah, I love their shirts too. They got the nice shiny shirts.
Most guys, either if they had made it to the finals, had their final shirts, or most of them actually had plaid shirts. But these were terrific, these satin shirts.
What stands out to me is, why are they sitting on their saddles? Like, this is just me not knowing enough about rodeo, but
you need to get your seat. You need to know you're seated just so, like, the way that feels comfortable. It's like watching a pianist sit down on the piano bench, and fuss till finally they raise their hands and begin.
And your legs are hugging the swells there of the saddle, the front of the saddle. And you can see that white powder on there. That's rosin, the same as you put on a violin string. It makes it sticky. So what they're doing there is warming up their saddles before they go to ride. And it was probably raining that day, so they're under cover of a grandstand. Otherwise, we would do that behind the chutes.
I think a cool thing about rodeo, especially then, was sort of the blend between the competitor and the spectator.
I can also attest here in my First Nation, we have a rodeo arena, and it's often rented by non-Indigenous people for rodeos. So there's I think as well, a long history of camaraderie in the cowboy world. So I think that also speaks to this, that, the coming together in a particular sport that actually joins people rather than divides them.
I always thought of rodeos as in the plains, and so seeing them in the woods, in the mountains, was a bit of a shock to me.
That's a BC interior rodeo somewhere, and everybody just getting ready before the rodeo. Looks like they're all getting ready for the grand entry.
The main reason why I was interested in this picture is because these women are ready to ride. It would have been nice to see more of that throughout the series.
One of the things that I remembered so clearly about Ronnie was her really strong focus on the performer cowboys. It sort of reinforced the thoughts I was having about women not being the major players in what people see as rodeo. I wanted even then to be recognized as an integral part of what was going on with this rodeo business, and it was very easy for people not to recognize that. There is this sense of rodeo being white men participating, and that's kind of what it is. And of course, anybody who has any involvement with rodeo at all knows that from the word go, there have been Indigenous people involved.
In the early days of, the bringing in the cattle, and of course the whole sort of disappearance of the bison in favor of the cattle and development. So, you really did need a lot of frontiersmen at that time who were also, transitioned very easily into being cowboys. So really, if you take a look at colonization, they were at the forefront. They were the front lines of colonization in so many ways. But it's interesting because, as Indigenous people being resilient throughout this process, we've been very quick to adapt to various practices, including rodeo, and become actually really good at it. For me, anyway, I've always had sort of that mixed emotion that, while we love the sport, we also realize that it's all part of this colonization process. And yet, here we are. And, and we excel at it. So, like anything in relation to the colonial project, as our ancestors or our elders often tell us, learn it and then do it better.
Cowboy, it comes from the word vaquero, vaca meaning cow. It was Spanish and then Mexican, completely culturally appropriating cowboy identity during a time of Western expansion and the emergence of the white Anglo cowboy in the frontier American West. The origin of this has more Latinx roots than anything.
I know my dad, he was like, he had, I think, 3 or 4 cowboy hats, and I think I still have one. He passed a few years back. And they're just like, you just don't mess with their cowboy hats.
The cowboy hat in queer culture, as far as gay rodeo, at times I refer to the look of a cowboy as true drag. The person dressing up has to have the largest hat, the biggest belt buckle, the flashiest chaps.
I grew up in a more rural setting, and now I live in a very urban setting. Moving to an urban setting and being around people in an urban setting, you kind of get this derision towards people that think differently from you, and you're like, why are they so conservative? Why are they this, that? And so I think what I got from this series was just a lot of humanity. That's the most important part.
I don't actually divide things up quite like that. Wherever I am, I'm very conscious of my relationship to land. I'm consistently thinking about the trees, the sky, trying to resist the pavement and understand that under that pavement will always be land. So we come and we go, but the land remains.
Slow down a little, enjoy your life. I've spent the last 3.5 years living in Vancouver on a job. I just look at it out there and shake my head like, I hope you guys never discover how good we got it in the country, because it'd crowd us out again. It was just so peaceful getting home. One old blind dog and one old deaf dog, and you just go wander around the yard and go do something. They hang out with you and life is good.
I looked at rodeo and thought, oh, that's cruel, and they dig the spurs into the horses, and oh my goodness. Then I got involved in rodeo, and I realized, that's not what goes on.
I am sympathetic with animal rights advocates. At the same time, this is a long tradition, and you don't break a long tradition that easy. And I do know that a lot of the people, cowboys and farm people who look after their animals, take very good care of them.
They take care of those animals like you wouldn't believe. It's their, God, my cousin, it's almost like his kids who are all grown up now. These horses.
When the cowboys get on with their spurs, they do not make holes in those animals. And if they do, the stock contractor will be very upset with them. If anybody cut one of the animals, it's just an absolute no-no. They just can't do that because the creatures couldn't keep on going. And it's not like you have a bucking horse and then you have it for 3 rodeos and then you give it away. Those horses go on for years and years and years.
It's always unfortunate when an animal does get harmed in these situations. And of course, they don't have their own voices to tell us that, no, you can't do this. At the same time, I know there's a great love of the animals, in particular horses, by cowboys. So I can't discount that. But at the same time, perhaps in time we'll evolve even further.
People who complain about rodeo or bitch about it they know nothing of rural life. We rope calves to treat them. We do that kind of stuff. Of course, lots of them don't even eat beef. So learn something about rodeo before you go and stand there. Come on out. We'll show you. They take care of the stock. That is Lyle Sankey at Williams Lake. He was one of the top bull rider, bronc riders in the world. Oh, God, there's old Wick Beth fighting bulls. Oh, my God. Oh, and Kenny Watterson, Joe Dodge, Doug Bowles. Look at all those guys. Oh, and there's, who else is that? That's Jake Shevar.
I think I was scared. You can tell I was right in the infield with them. I did want to show how it's dangerous. And the fact that these guys persist, in pitting themselves against a wild animal over and over again.
There are 2 judges, and each judge gives the bull a mark out of 25 and the guy a mark out of 25. So for a stock contractor, you want to see bulls that really buck. You want them to give these guys the best ride possible. Now, you also find it lovely. I find it lovely. A lot of stock hunters find it lovely when the guy gets bucked off because that means it's a really powerful bull that they can't ride.
Yeah, I mean, this is just part of it, but I would bet you that she was happy that she caught this because 2 seconds earlier, you might not have known that all of these tilts. So, the clown is in a tilt that in painting had been called the dynamic diagonal. And that was one of the things that in the history of painting animated the painting. It shouldn't be this way, but if something looks as if it is more dynamic, I think that, moves people to qualify it as a good photograph.
To be truthful of this one, because we were friends, I kind of recorded this moment for him because it was so dynamic and exciting.
I remember the first time Ronnie showed me that picture. I was like, holy smoke, that's a great picture. And just because this horse, that was in 1978 in the novice saddle bronc riding at Merritt. That horse, he was a Godferson horse. And this horse, I didn't know the horse, so you don't know how much rein to give him or what he's going to do. And he come out there about 3 or 4 jumps and flung me in the air. I come down pretty much on my feet. It was hilarious. He was going straight down the arena. You can see him turning to the right there. He went right in a hurry, and I kept going. I worked 26 years in the film industry. And in that industry, I'm Coleman Robinson. Yeah, when I go, still to this day, go to a rodeo or whatever, and there's people there that remember me, and it's like, I'm Coleman Robinson, the bronc rider, not just Coleman Robinson. And that's always precious to me. So they remember.
There's a famous line from the French philosopher Michel Foucault, is that over time, documents become monuments. And over time, monuments become documents. This will become more important with the passage of time, All of this may become completely extinct. You don't know where the photograph will be 500,000 years from now. The only copies of these that exist might be on some other planet, where people are studying what went on Earth before it burnt out, and they'll find this, and they'll be very confused. What were these people on this planet doing? Why are they looking at this person falling off a horse? Was falling off a horse a sport?
He drinks juice from a coffee cup. He's gotta be tough. Orange, no sugar, no cream. So ride along, little cowboy, at the tender young age of 4. So ride along, little cowboy, and please don't you slam that screen door. Well, he circles the block, it's about 10 o'clock. Cap gun strapped to his